Everybody, it's the Geek Father here with my review of the new Netflix Luke Cage series. I meant to record this about a week ago, but work and time actually got in the way. So I ended up doing what I do whenever any Netflix Marvel series comes down, and my whole weekend was pretty much devoted to it. But overall, in the end, I actually really liked the series. I was surprised Luke Cage has never been my all-time favorite character in the comic book, and with his past as more of a black exploitation, I was kind of wondering what the show would do with it, and I was genuinely surprised. I actually thought it had a really good first half of the show, and the second half was good, but had some inconsistencies that I'll get into during the cons of the show. But I have to say, starting with the highlights of the show, I thought Luke Cage and his character development from reluctant hero to someone who actually gives a damn was really well done. He really grew as a character as the series went on, and it was fun seeing him kind of become more part of the community rather than loner, which we've seen more with Daredevil and Jessica Jones. It was actually interesting to see a hero who actually his identity was known and was actually out in the world. And I thought Mike Coulter, I believe the actor's name, and did a really good job on, expanding from the role of Jessica Jones and making it his own and being the center of the series. Also, the environment itself was amazing. I thought the Harlem all the Harlem stuff was great, well done, and it actually felt like a character that really added to it. Although this felt like a Netflix series, so it didn't feel totally different that Luke Cage won't fit in with the Defenders. The Harlem set actually gave it a different feel than Hell's Kitchen, and I really did enjoy that with the musics, the clubs, and the community feel of it. Misty Knight also was a big highlight of it. I've never really read any of her in the comic books, only a couple times in some Iron Fist comic books where her and Danny Rand have a relationship. But I thought the actress, actually made me really interested in the character, which I've never really been before. So I thought that was well done. There was some parts I did have a con of that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, we're just kind of going through. And as I said, the first half was a lot better. I thought the focus on Luke Cage and Coppermouth, rivalry, which Cottonmouth was another highlight of the series, was really well done. It was the whole thing of Luke Cage coming into his own. I thought the series, when they started introducing a certain character who I'll get into in a moment, the series did dip a little bit in quality and got a little lost in what story it was trying to tell. But as far as it did address a lot of social issues that we have going on in the news lately, which I thought was, really cool, and had an overall real message about, respecting your community, choosing to help your community rather than, becoming a gangbanger or just a problem in the community, which is what Luke Cage kind of decided to do. And another aspect, I liked his origin. I liked that we learned a lot more about Reva from Jessica Jones, because we didn't really spend too much time with her on Jessica Jones. But we learned a whole origin. She's got her whole understory, which I'm pretty sure is going to end up leading into the Defenders. As far as the cons go, like I said, the second half, when they introduced Diamondback. Now, the actor who plays Diamondback, I had no problem with him. He was a little campy at times, and it did take me out of the show a little bit because the show had a different feel before that. It didn't feel as cheesy as his character was. But if I just look at him as a villain, he was just a comic book villain who was having a good time playing a comic book villain. And his suit at the end was a little ridiculous, but it was comic book accurate. But in a show that didn't really have too much comic book stuff, other than, of course, a man being bulletproof, which was another positive I forgot to mention, was the action scenes, especially when he breaks into, Crispin's and just has his own hallway scene, as all these Netflix scenes do. I thought it was excellent, but the actor who played Diamondback did a good job. I just thought his character felt out of place in the world that the show had set up. like I said, the back half of the season, at a certain point, Luke kind of goes somewhere else, and the police aspect starts to take over, which I did enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed it. Kind of gave you both sides of today's controversial issues from the police and from the streets, and I thought that was really cool. But I do feel like the police story with Misty Knight ended up kind of taking over the story at a certain point, which was kind of weird. And this is all in the second half, so I'd have to say. Like I say, the first half of the show is really good, establishes everything really well. The second half kind of starts to lose it, even though it does have some amazing scenes. And, the hostage episode where everyone's taken hostage in the club in episode 11, I believe, is actually one of my favorite episodes. So I just think it could have, if they maybe had introduced Diamondback either in season 2 or earlier, it would have worked better because they kind of introduced him and had to rush through his origins. So you never really got a sense that him and Luke were friends. Maybe a couple more flashbacks would have helped, and seeing kind of just the major fallout between the two. But overall, I really did enjoy this series. If I had to rate it on the Netflix series, I'd say this is probably my third of the Netflix characters, because my favorite still being Daredevil, and then Jessica Jones, and then this one. That's not to take anything away from this. It's just Jessica Jones and Daredevil were really good to me. I'd probably put this just above Daredevil Season 1 on my list. I'd probably go Daredevil Season 2, Jessica Jones, this, and then Daredevil Season 1. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment below, and it's definitely a series worth checking out, and I'm looking forward to Iron Fist. All right, have a good day.